She was sent to spy on the most dangerous man in Seoul, a mafia boss feared by everyone. But somewhere between the lies, the secrets, and the danger, she lost her heart to him. Now, the girl trained to destroy him must choose love or loyalty. Because in Ha-jun's world, betrayal means death. Before we dive into this story of danger, passion, and forbidden love, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single twist. Rain fell heavily over Seoul that night, the kind that blurred the city lights into watercolor streaks. Inside the towering glass building of the International Crime Intelligence Unit, ICIU, the air was tense. Agents moved quickly. Screens flickered with maps and profiles, and Bridget stood at the center of it all, her heart pounding beneath her fitted black blazer. She wasn't just any agent. She was the best listener, the one who could blend in anywhere, learn anyone's truth, and leave without being noticed. But this mission, this one felt different. Agent Bridget, Director Minute said, sliding a file across the table. Your new target, Ha-jun. The Korean mafia boss. Ruthless, smart, untouchable. Bridget opened the file and froze. A photograph stared back at her. A man with sharp eyes and a cold expression, his black hair slicked back, a dragon tattoo curling up the side of his neck. The kind of man who looked like he could destroy you with a whisper. Ha-jun runs his operations under a trading company called Black Lotus Group. Minute continued. We need someone who can infiltrate quietly. Get close to him. Find the source of his weapons import. Bridget's lips parted slightly. You want me to spy on the most dangerous man in Seoul. You're the only one he doesn't know, Minute said. And you'll do whatever it takes, right? She swallowed hard. Yes, sir. 2 days later, Bridget stood in front of the Lotte Art Gallery, disguised as a translator for an elite auction. She wore a cream silk blouse, black skirt, and a discreet earpiece connecting her to headquarters. Everything looked calm, until she saw him. Ha-jun entered the room surrounded by guards in dark suits. His presence silenced the crowd. He wasn't just handsome, he was commanding. His gaze cut through people like glass, yet when his eyes met Bridget's for a second, something shifted. His stare lingered, curious, almost intrigued. Bridget quickly looked away, pretending to fix her earpiece. Focus, Bridget. You're not here to admire him. But fate had other plans. Suddenly, a commotion broke out near the back, 2 bidders fighting over an antique vase. The situation escalated fast. Someone shoved Bridget, and the vase tipped toward her. Before she could react, a strong hand caught her wrist, pulling her close, right against Ha-jun's chest. Be careful, he said in a deep, smooth voice. This place is full of snakes. His cologne, dark and smoky, hit her senses, and for a moment, time froze. Then he let go, his eyes narrowing slightly. What's your name? Be Bridget, she stammered. He smiked, as if tasting the name. I'll remember that. Her earpiece buzzed. Agent Bridget, do not engage with him. But it was too late. Ha-jun had already walked away, leaving Bridget standing in the middle of the chaos, her pulse racing and her mission suddenly feeling far more dangerous than she'd imagined. The next morning, Seoul glowed beneath soft sunlight, but Bridget couldn't shake last night's moment from her mind. Ha-jun's eyes, his voice, his hand gripping hers, everything replayed like a movie she couldn't turn off. Back at her apartment, she stared at her reflection. You're a spy, not a schoolgirl crushing on her target, she reminded herself. She tied her braids into a bun, slipped into a beige blazer, and headed out. Today, she had a new cover, a translator for Black Lotus Group, Ha-jun's company. Director Min's voice echoed through her earpiece. Keep it professional. You're there to gather intel, not flirt with danger. She smirked faintly. Copy that. Inside the towering Black Lotus building, the atmosphere was heavy with power. Men in suits moved silently through the marble halls, their eyes sharp. Every corner smelled of money and risk. When Bridget stepped into the conference room, she froze again. Ha-jun was there, in a charcoal gray suit, one sleeve slightly rolled up, revealing the faint edge of his tattoo. His presence was magnetic, like gravity itself pulled her toward him. He looked up slowly. "You again?" His tone wasn't cold, but amused, as if fate had played another trick. "I was assigned as your new interpreter, Mr. Ha-jun," she said, keeping her voice steady. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You speak fluent Korean?" "Perfectly." "Good. I don't like people who misunderstand me." There was silence, thick, charged. Bridget caught a faint smirk on his lips before he turned away to start the meeting. Her pulse wouldn't calm. The meeting stretched for hours. Bridget translated flawlessly, her professionalism intact, but her attention drifted. Each time Ha-jun's deep voice filled the room, it brushed against her nerves like static. He was too composed, too aware of his power. When the meeting ended, everyone left except Ha-jun. He poured himself a drink, then spoke without looking at her. "Most people in this business fear me. You don't seem to." Bridget hesitated. "Fear makes people careless. I prefer caution." He chuckled softly, the sound deep and dangerous. "Smart answer." Then his phone buzzed. He picked it up, his smile fading. "What do you mean they found the shipment?" His voice turned sharp, Korean rolling off his tongue fast and furious. He hung up, jaw tense. Bridget pretended to gather her papers, but curiosity got the best of her. "Is everything all right?" He looked up, eyes colder now. "Do you always ask questions that aren't your business?" Her breath caught. The man she saw last night, the one who saved her, was gone. This was the real Ha-jun, ruthless, commanding, unreadable. Yet she couldn't look away. Moments later, he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You're brave, Miss Bridget. I'll be watching you closely." And just like that, he left, his cologne lingering in the air, leaving Bridget frozen in the middle of the room, torn between duty and something dangerously close to attraction. Her earpiece crackled again. "Agent Bridget, we need a status report." But for the first time, she couldn't answer. Her mission had officially begun, and so had her heart's betrayal. The next few days unfolded like a storm of whispers and tension. Bridget blended perfectly into the Black Lotus offices, polite smile, quick hands, flawless Korean. Yet beneath the calm, her mind raced. She sent coded reports to her agency at night, but by day, she shadowed Seoul's most dangerous man. And then, one morning, everything changed. A meeting was underway in Ha-jun's boardroom. Investors, translators, and Ha-jun himself, cool and unreadable at the head of the table. Bridget translated documents for a foreign partner discussing a weapons import disguised as machinery. Halfway through, Bridget caught something strange, a mistranslation in the Korean contract. The interpreter had swapped two terms. Exclusive rights became transfer of ownership. It would have handed Ha-jun's entire shipment to a rival company. Her pulse quickened. If she stayed silent, the deal would go through, giving her agency valuable chaos. But something inside her moved, instinct or conscience, she didn't know. "Excuse me," Bridget said in perfect Korean, stepping forward. "There's an error in that line. The clause means they'd own your shipment completely. It's a trick." The room fell silent. Ha-jun looked up sharply. "Are you sure?" She met his gaze. "Completely." Ha-jun snatched the paper, reread it, and his jaw tightened. The foreign partner began stammering, but Ha-jun's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Meeting over." When the room cleared, he turned to Bridget. For the first time, there was something almost like respect in his eyes. "You just saved me $30 million, he said quietly. She shrugged, forcing calm. "Just doing my job." He studied her a long moment, then nodded once. That was the moment he decided she was different, precise, unafraid, loyal. The seed of trust was planted. Later that day, her phone buzzed. "Mr. Ha-jun wants to see you. In his office. Now." Bridget's heart thudded. She straightened her skate, smoothed her blouse, and stepped into the elevator. His office was vast and still, floor-to-ceiling glass. The skyline stretched out behind him like a kingdom. He didn't look up when she entered. "You're early," he said. "I came as soon as you called." Finally, he faced her. "My last assistant betrayed me," he said flatly. "Sold my information to the police. I need someone I can trust. Someone sharp." Her throat went dry. "You want me, as your assistant?" He nodded. "You've been translating my words. Now, I want you to understand them." Her earpiece buzzed faintly. "Direct to minute. Decline. Do you hear me, Agent Bridget? Too dangerous. Decline." But Bridget couldn't speak. Her heart, her foolish, restless heart, beat too loudly. Ha-Jun's voice lowered. "You're not afraid of me, are you?" She met his gaze. "Should I be?" A small smile tugged at his mouth. "Most people are." From that day on, she became his shadow. Meetings, late-night drives, secret phone calls. She was always near. Each time, she told herself she was only observing. Each time, it felt less like a mission and more like gravity. One night, after a long business dinner, Ha-Jun offered to drive her home. The city shimmered through the windshield. The silence between them pulsed with unspoken words. "Do you ever get lonely?" she asked softly. He glanced at her, surprised. "You talk too much for someone who just started working for me." Her lips twitched. "Maybe I just enjoy asking questions." He leaned back, eyes half smiling. "You're bold, Miss Bridget." "Careful, boldness can be dangerous in my world." For a heartbeat, she froze. The way he said it made her wonder, did he suspect her? Or was it just his way of warning everyone to stay in their place? The silence thickened. Then he turned away, rolling up his sleeve, revealing a hint of ink curling across his wrist. "Lonely? Yes," he murmured finally. "But it's safer that way." The car stopped in front of her apartment. When she reached for the handle, his hand brushed Hayes, a spark, brief but undeniable. "Good night, Miss Bridget," he said, eyes lingering longer than they should have. "Good night, Ha-Jun." She closed the door, leaning against it as her heart raced. The spy in her whispered, "Don't fall." But the woman she tried to bury was already falling. Later that night, Ha-Jun sat alone with a drink, replaying her words. He remembered how her badge had glinted under the office lights earlier, a strange reflection, like a microlens. He exhaled slowly. "Bridget," he muttered. "Who are you really?" Outside, Seoul's neon lights flickered like secrets waiting to be revealed. Bridget had never felt the weight of a secret so heavy. Days turned into weeks, meetings, car rides, late nights at Ha-Jun's side. Each moment stretched the line between duty and emotion until it threatened to snap. She told herself she was still a spy, that she was doing her job. But when Ha-Jun smiled, when his low voice brushed her ear as he gave an order, the world blurred. That evening, the Black Lotus headquarters was alive with tension. A deal was going down, one of the biggest shipments of the year. Bridget's task was simple: record the location data, send it to her agency before midnight. Ha-Jun, dressed in his signature black suit with the top button undone, sleeves rolled to reveal faint tattoos snaking across his arms, gave off that magnetic, dangerous calm. His aura could silence a room. "Stay close," he murmured to her as they walked into the warehouse. "If something feels wrong, don't move." The men around bowed slightly as he passed. The sound of crates being loaded echoed through the air. Bridget kept her cool, her small camera hidden inside a silver pen clipped to her blazer. Ha-Jun spoke with his men, but his eyes, sharp and calculating, often drifted back to her. "You look nervous," he said quietly when they were alone for a moment. She forced a smile. "Just not used to being in places like this." He tilted his head slightly, a faint smirk appearing. "Then get used to it. I plan to keep you close." Her breath caught. It wasn't the words, it was the way he said them. Possessive, protective, dangerous. At exactly 11:47 p.m., Bridget stepped away to make a call. Her agency was waiting. She knelt behind a stack of crates, whispered into her communicator. Package confirmed. GPS transmitting now. But suddenly, a shadow fell across her. Who are you talking to? It was Minute Wu, Ha-Jun's right-hand man. His cold stare pierced through her. You're not supposed to be here. Her mind raced. I was calling the catering team. Ha-Jun asked for wine for the guests. Before she could finish, Ha-Jun's voice cut through the air like steel. Minute Wu. Enough. He stepped into view, his dark eyes unreadable. She's with me. Minute Wu hesitated, then bowed slightly. Yes, boss. When they were alone, Ha-Jun's gaze stayed fixed on her. You disobeyed me, he said quietly. I told you not to move. Her throat tightened. I'm sorry. I just... Don't, he interrupted. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. You're brave, Bridget. But bravery gets people killed in this world. For a long moment, silence filled the space between them. Thick, electric. Then, unexpectedly, he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her face. You're shaking, he murmured. Don't be afraid of me. She looked up at him, heart pounding. I'm not afraid of you, Ha-Jun. His eyes softened for just a second, and then he turned away. Go home, he said, voice low. Before I forget that I don't hurt people I care about. That night, in her tiny apartment, Bridget stared at the glowing skyline through her window. She clutched her pen, the one holding her secret recording, and whispered to herself, What are you doing, Bridget? You're supposed to bring him down, not fall for him. Her agency's message blinked on her screen. Report received. Excellent work. Next phase begins soon. Keep gaining his trust. She stared at the words until they blurred. Tears filled her eyes. She couldn't tell whether she was afraid of being caught or afraid of breaking his heart. Meanwhile, at his penthouse, Ha-Jun stood by the window, glass of whiskey in hand. Minute Wu entered quietly. She's hiding something, Minute Wu said. Should I look into her past? Ha-Jun didn't answer for a while. His eyes lingered on the city lights. Finally, he said softly, No, I'll find out myself. He took a long sip, the ice clinking. Bridget, whatever you're hiding, don't make me regret trusting you. The morning after the warehouse incident, Bridget woke up feeling like her world was divided into two, the spy and the woman. The spy was cold, calculating, obedient. The woman couldn't stop thinking about the man who had shielded her without asking why. Her communicator buzzed. She froze. It was Director Minute. Agent Bridget, we've reviewed your data. You've done well, but there's a change in mission priority. Her stomach dropped. Change? What kind of change? We no longer need tracking data. We need evidence, something that will destroy Ha-Jun's operation completely. You're in the perfect position now. Get his access codes, his phone, something concrete. Her breath caught. You want me to? Steal from him. Betray his trust. Do it within 72 hours. The line went dead. Bridget sank to the floor, her pulse racing. The last thing Ha-Jun had said to her echoed in her mind, Don't make me regret trusting you. At the Black Lotus Tower, Ha-Jun was unusually quiet. His shirt sleeves were rolled up again, the edge of a tattoo peeking, an intricate dragon winding around his forearm, symbolizing protection and vengeance. His presence filled the room, yet his thoughts were miles away. Bridget entered, carrying his morning coffee. You didn't sleep, she said softly. He looked up from the documents, dark circles shadowing his eyes. I never do when I'm thinking about betrayal. Her heart skipped. Betrayal? He leaned back in his chair, studying her face carefully. Someone's been leaking locations to the police. They raided one of my shipments last night. Nobody was caught, but he let the silence hang heavy. It was too precise, too clean. Her fingers tightened around the coffee cup. You think it's someone here? I always think it's someone here. His voice was calm, almost chilling. Trust is expensive, Miss Bridget. She set the cup down carefully. And yet you keep giving it to me. Their eyes met. For a long, fragile moment, neither looked away. Then he said quietly, "That's what scares me." Later that night, Bridget sat in Ha-jun's penthouse office while he showered. His phone was on the table beside a folder labeled shipment codes. Her agency's voice replayed in her head. "Get something. Anything." Her hand hovered over the folder. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She told herself this was her duty, what she was trained for. But when she looked up, she saw a photo frame on the desk, a younger Ha-jun, smiling beside an older man with kind eyes. On the back was written in Korean, "To my son, who will build a world where we are no longer hunted." Something cracked inside her. She couldn't do it. She stood, backing away from the desk just as Ha-jun stepped out of the hallway, shirtless, towel draped around his neck. The sight made her heart stop. Tattoos lined his chest and shoulder, marks of loyalty, pain, and survival. His gaze flicked to the desk, then to her trembling hands. "You were looking at something." I just wanted to tidy up." He took a step closer, his wet hair dripping. "You're nervous again, Bridget." Her throat was dry. "No, just tired." He smiled faintly, but his eyes didn't match. "You forget I read people for a living." For a moment, he stood inches from her, the air electric. Then, unexpectedly, he reached behind her and picked up the phone. "You dropped this," he said, his fingers brushing hers. "Careful next time." Bridget exhaled shakily as he walked past her, his presence both intoxicating and terrifying. That night, Bridget sent her agency a single message. "Still gaining access. Need more time." Then she threw her communicator into the drawer, turned off the light, and sat in darkness, whispering to herself, "Ha-jun, what are you doing to me?" Meanwhile, in the penthouse above, Ha-jun watched her on the security feed. Eyes dark, expression unreadable. She hesitated. He murmured, "She's hiding something, but not out of greed." Minute Wu frowned. "Then out of what?" Ha-jun's lips curved slightly, not a smile, but something softer. "Out of love." He took a sip of whiskey, voice low. "And love can be the most dangerous betrayal of all." Ha-jun didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window, the Seoul skyline glowing beneath him, and the rain sliding down the glass like falling secrets. Every instinct honed from years in the underworld whispered that Bridget wasn't who she said she was, yet, when he remembered her eyes, the tremble in her voice, the way she'd warned him about the contract, he hesitated. He'd trusted the wrong people before, but this time it hurt to even imagine he might be right. The next morning, Bridget arrived as usual, hair neatly braided, her white blouse tucked into a dark pencil skirt. She smiled, like always, but her mind was spinning. The agency had gone silent since she delayed the mission. That silence was worse than anger. "Good morning, boss," she said lightly. Ha-jun looked up from his desk. "We going out today?" "Where to?" He closed his laptop. Somewhat quiet. "You'll come with me." She hesitated. "Should I bring my files?" "No, just you." There was something in his tone, too calm, too even. Her pulse jumped. They drove for nearly 2 hours, out of the city, into the mountains. The mist curled around the roads like pale ghosts. Ha-jun barely spoke, one hand on the wheel, eyes on the winding path ahead. When they finally stopped, she realized where they were, an old villa overlooking the forest. The place looked abandoned, yet strangely familiar. He led her inside. The air was cold and quiet. Only the ticking of a wall clock filled the space. "This was my father's house," he said suddenly, breaking the silence. "He built it before he was killed." "I'm sorry," Bridget said softly. He turned toward her, expression unreadable. "You remind me of the woman who told me he died. She said she was just an informant, but she was actually a government spy." Bridget's chest tightened. "Ha-jun." He stepped closer, his voice low. "You know what's funny, Bridget? I've been watching you for days. The way you touch your pen, the way you check your watch every hour, the way you hesitate before answering simple questions. Her breath hitched. You think I'm lying? He smiled faintly, not cruel, not warm, just sad. I think you're hiding something. He reached behind her suddenly and pulled out the silver pen she always carried. With a swift motion, he twisted the top. A faint red light blinked. A recording device. Bridget froze. Ha-Jun stayed at it, the betrayal slicing deeper than he expected. So it's true. She tried to speak. Ha-Jun, please, it's not what you think. Not what I think. His voice cracked with restrained fury. You've been spying on me, haven't you? Since the beginning. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was ordered to. They sent me to destroy you, but you what? He stepped closer, eyes burning. You fell in love with me. The silence that followed was unbearable. Her voice broke. Yes. He stared at her for a long time, the kind of stare that could shatter glass. Then, without warning, he hurled the pen across the room. It hit the wall and broke. Love doesn't erase betrayal, Bridget. She swallowed a sob. Then kill me if you have to, but don't call what I feel for you fake. Because it isn't. For a long moment, neither moved. Only the rain outside spoke for them, drumming against the glass like a heartbeat. Ha-Jun's jaw tightened. Finally, he turned away. Leave. Before I change my mind. Ha-Jun. Go. Bridget stood frozen, tears streaking her cheeks, before slowly walking toward the door. When it shut behind her, Ha-Jun exhaled shakily, pressing his hand to the glass. Minute Wu stepped out from the shadows. You were right, boss. She was working for the agency. Ha-Jun's eyes stayed fixed on the forest below. I don't care about that anymore. Minute Wu frowned. Then why bring her here? Ha-Jun's voice dropped, heavy and broken. Because I wanted to see if I could still feel something before I destroy everything. The rain hadn't stopped since that night in the villa. Seoul was drenched in a heavy, endless downpour, the kind that mirrored Bridget's heart. For 3 days, she hadn't seen Ha-Jun. He hadn't called, hadn't shown up at the office. The Black Lotus network had gone silent, their messages encrypted, their movements hidden. Even the agency couldn't locate him. But Bridget felt it. Something was coming. At 10:42 p.m., her phone buzzed with a message that made her blood run cold. Direct to Minute, target located. Black Lotus headquarters. Operation commences in 30 minutes. No interference. Agent Bridget. Her heart stopped. They were going after Ha-Jun. Bridget grabbed her coat and ran into the storm. The city blurred past her as she jumped into a taxi, shouting, To the docks! Hurry! Every drop of rain felt like punishment. Every flash of lightning reminded her that she had caused this. She had led them to him, even if she hadn't meant to. By the time she reached the headquarters, the sound of gunfire had already begun. Inside, chaos reigned. Black Lotus guards fired from behind crates as agency agents swarmed in, shouting commands in Korean and English. The smell of gunpowder burned the air. Bridget pushed through the smoke, her lungs screaming, her heart breaking. Ha-Jun, she shouted, her voice barely audible over the gunfire. Then she saw him. Ha-Jun stood near the main hall, gun in hand, calm amidst the storm. His white shirt was smeared with blood, not his, she hoped. His hair was damp, plastered to his forehead. Even in the chaos, his eyes found her instantly. Bridget, he breathed, disbelief flashing across his face. She ran toward him. They are here for you. You have to run. He shook his head slowly, almost smiling. You came back, even after everything. Ha-Jun, please. Before she could finish, a bullet whizzed past her, shattering the glass behind them. Ha-Jun lunged forward, pulling her down and shielding her with his body. Stay down, he barked, firing back at the agents closing in. Bridget's hands shook as she tried to push him away. Why are you protecting me? I don't deserve it. His jaw clenched, eyes burning through the smoke. Because I still feel something when I look at you, and that's the only truth left in this mess. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Another explosion rocked the building. Ha-Jun pulled her toward the side corridor. There's a tunnel behind the warehouse. Go now. What about you? He glanced back at the flashing lights outside, dozens of agents closing in. They are not leaving without me. No, I'm not leaving you. Ha-Jun grabbed her face gently, his palms warm despite the chaos. You should have never entered my world, Bridget. His voice cracked softly. But I'm glad you did. Then, before she could answer, he shoved her toward the tunnel just as armed agents stormed in from every direction. Ha-Jun, she screamed, reaching for him. But it was too late. The agents tackled him to the ground, shouting orders. Ha-Jun didn't fight back. He just looked at her one last time through the haze of smoke and flashing lights. That look, half love, half goodbye, carved itself into her soul. Don't cry, he mouthed as they dragged him away. Bridget fell to her knees, sobbing, as sirens wailed outside. The agency's cars lined the docks, red and blue lights cutting through the rain. Target secured, an officer said over the radio. Repeat, Ha-Jun, the Black Lotus boss, is in custody. Director-Minute approached Bridget, his face cold and satisfied. Excellent work, Agent. Mission accomplished. She turned to him, her voice trembling. This wasn't what I wanted. He gave a tight smile. That's the thing about missions. Bridget, they are not about what we want. They are about what we finish. He walked away, leaving her standing there, drenched in rain and heartbreak. That night, alone in her apartment, Bridget watched the news. Underworld kingpin Ha-Jun arrested in a police raid. Multiple charges pending. Her chest ached as the screen showed his face, bruised but calm, staring into the camera like a man who had already accepted his fate. She pressed her hand against the screen and whispered, You saved me, even when I ruined you. Outside, the rain fell harder, drowning the city in sorrow. The rain fell softly over Seoul that night, the kind that painted the streets silver and blurred the city lights into streaks of melancholy. Bridget stood outside the high-security detention center, hood drawn, her hands trembling inside her coat pockets. Her agency had suspended her indefinitely, emotional compromise, they called it, but all she could think about was him. Ha-Jun, the man she was sent to destroy, the man she ended up loving. Inside, the prison's visiting room was quiet, divided by a thick pane of glass. A single phone rested between two metal chairs. When the guard brought him in, Bridget's breath hitched. Ha-Jun looked different, his signature black suit replaced by a gray inmate uniform. His once slick hair now fell messily over his forehead, shadowing tired eyes. Yet, even in chains, his presence was powerful. The tattoos that curved up his neck peeked from beneath his collar, reminders of the world he ruled. Their eyes met. Neither spoke at first. The silence carried everything: regret, pain, love that had bloomed in the wrong season. Bridget picked up the phone first, her voice trembling. Ha-Jun. He smiled faintly, lifting the phone to his ear. You shouldn't be here. I had to see you, she whispered. They said you'll be transferred tomorrow. His jaw tightened. You mean exiled to a prison where I disappear? Tears burned behind her eyes. I tried to stop them. I told them you saved me, that you're not who they think you are. He cut in softly. Bridget, I am who they think I am. His tone was calm, but his gaze betrayed the storm beneath. I've done terrible things. The only thing I did right was you. Her throat tightened. Don't say that. He leaned closer to the glass, his voice low, almost tender. When you came into my world, everything changed. I used to believe love was a weakness, but you, his lips curved faintly, you made it feel like strength. Bridget couldn't hold it in anymore, tears slid down her cheeks. You shouldn't have saved me that night. They shot at you because of me. And I'd do it again, he replied, his voice firm. You were the only light in this life of blood and shadows. For a long moment, Neither spoke. The hum of the fluorescent lights filled the space. Then Bridget whispered, "Ha-jun, when you get out, even if it's years from now, I'll still be here. I'll wait." His eyes softened. "Bridget, don't waste your life on a criminal." "You're not a criminal to me," she said, pressing her hand against the glass. "You're the man who showed me that even monsters can love." Ha-jun slowly lifted his own hand, placing it against hers through the glass. The faintest smile touched his lips, sad, beautiful, real. "You really are something else, Miss Bridget." Her lips quivered into a tearful smile. "And you're still too stubborn, Mr. Ha-jun." A guard approached. "Time's up." Ha-jun exhaled slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "Promise me one thing," he said. "Anything. Don't lose your fire. That's what made me fall for you." Her breath caught. "And you, promise me you'll come back." He smiled faintly. "If there's one thing I've learned, it's that even a man like me can dream again." The guard stepped closer, tapping Ha-jun's shoulder. He was led away in handcuffs, but just before he turned, he looked back one last time, and mouthed, "Saranghi." Bridget stood frozen as tears streamed down her face. The rain outside had turned heavier, echoing the rhythm of her heartbeat. She stepped out into the night, her footsteps slow, her chest tight but full of something fragile, hope. Above her, the neon lights flickered faintly, and for a moment she could almost hear his voice in the rain. "You should have never entered my world, but I'm glad you did." As the camera panned up, Bridget walked down the quiet Seoul street, her figure framed by the city's glow. The music swelled, a soft piano theme of love and loss. She whispered into the rain, "I'll wait, Ha-jun. No matter how long it takes." What would you do if your heart betrayed your mission? Could love survive in a world full of danger and secrets? Bridget and Ha-jun's story isn't over yet. Part 2 is coming, and you won't want to miss it. Let us know what you think will happen next in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for watching.